Okay.
And we are recording.
All right. Good evening. My name is Randolph Micklejohn, and I'm a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the town of Brookline and the chair of this evening's meeting. Before we begin, I will confirm that all members and other persons anticipated to participate on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lark Palermo.
I am here.
Thank you. Widener Auger.
I am here.
Okay, good evening. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Nicole Perret.
Here.
All speakers should identify themselves by name prior to speaking. This meeting of the ZBA in open session is being conducted remotely and in a manner that is consistent with Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill, which extends to March 31st, 2025, the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law that were originally put in place by Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 executive order concerning the outbreak of COVID-19. The governor's bill authorizes this body to meet entirely remotely so long as adequate public access is provided. Adequate public access does not include public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the ZBA is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's calendar, which identifies how the public may access the meeting. Be advised that this meeting is being held and that some attendees may be participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town website through a link in the agenda. The meeting will follow the agenda unless I note otherwise. Next, I will cover some ground rules that will permit clear and effective conduct of our business and help to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will invite each member by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold yours until your name is called. Please also remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Before responding, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through me. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call. Finally, I will explain how members of the public may speak in this meeting. If you wish to speak, please send a message to our meeting host, Nicole Perret, using the chat section of the Zoom. You can find the chat icon at the bottom of your screen, click on it, and when the chat window opens on the right, enter your name. Nicole will queue speakers in the order their requests were received, and she will also ask if you would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to the project. When it is your turn to speak, I will call on you by name only. Please begin your remarks by stating your name and address. All right, we go now through the agenda. We have 6 items on the agenda to be heard this evening. 2 of them are administrative matters related to projects permitted under Chapter 40B. And we're going to hear those 2 first after I explain how we'll proceed through them. And then when we're done with those administrative matters, I will explain how we will proceed through the next 3 cases, which are under Chapter 40A. At the end, under other business, the board will discuss and vote on a procedure for approval of the minutes of its hearings. All right, to the agenda, item 1A concerns property at 445 Harvard Street, a project known as JFK Place, located in Precinct 9, where the applicant is seeking a time extension. Some background, the ZBA issued a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B for this project under its decision 2019-0060, set to expire on March 29th, 2025. Project is a 5-story, 25-unit multifamily rental building on a lot of 10,122 square feet, with 1 level of retail and 1 level of below-grade parking. In 2022, after the issuance of the permit, a modification was submitted and was approved by this board. Now, the applicant, 445 Harvard LLC, in a letter to the board of October 10th, 2024, has requested an extension of the comprehensive permit for 2 years, whereby it would expire on March 29th, 2027. A vote of the board is required to approve this extension. Nicole, is there a representative of the applicant present?
I don't see anyone. If you're here for the applicant, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll just note that town council, oh, do we have someone? Yes, we do. Steve, are you here for this case? 445 Harvard?
No.
Okay, I apologize. So I'll just
Nicole, you said you've had correspondence, a recommendation from town council to the board?
Yes, I was just going to read that into the record.
Oh,
He
please.
said that in response to whether or not show good cause puts the burden on the applicant, he said not the chapter 40B states that the ZBA shall not unreasonably deny any request for an extension. I would counsel the board to accept whatever reason the applicant states as their reasoning for the extension to avoid any analysis of whether or not this is good cause.
Thank you. I'm looking at the letter. I don't actually see a stated reason. Just and since town council mentioned that, any other
The construction, I have a correspondence from Maria saying that the construction will not begin within 3 years. So it's due to a delay in the construction of the project.
All right. And for the record, yeah, construction has not begun.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Members, any questions about this information to Nicole?
I do not have any questions.
All right. All right. Hearing the recommendation of town council, I'm going to say, as a member, I'm not aware of any reason to deny this request. We have it's certainly not uncommon in the last few years to see construction projects not delayed by a year or two. I guess I will start our deliberations by saying that I would be in favor of a affirmative vote on the proposal. Wadner?
I am also in favor of granting an extension as well.
Right. And Lark?
I agree. I think the extension should be granted.
All right. Thank you all. There it is, a unanimous decision in favor of a extension of the permit. I read the number already, and the new expiration date will be March 29th, 2027. All right. Putting that one aside, moving on. Item 1B on the agenda. Again, this is the second of a 40B permit matter. This concerns property at 101 Thornton Road, also known as 101 Asheville Road, a project known as the Residences of South Brookline, located in Precinct 16. The ZBA issued a comprehensive permit under Chapter 40B for this project in 2015, and the project has by now been substantially constructed. The permit was already modified twice in 2019 and once in 2021, and a fourth modification is currently before the board, separate from this evening's hearing. That one, so-called Mod 4, is to convert 25 garage parking spaces and a storage area in the Asheville building to 16 apartment units and added 24 parking spaces. The applicant, the Residences of South Brookline LLC, has now submitted a request for approval of a fifth modification, proposing now to modify conditions of the comprehensive permit related to the parking management plan and transportation access plan agreement in a letter from their council of October 15th, 2024. It's here. Which the board has received, in which they acknowledge that the board is likely to consider the requested modification substantial and and they indicate that they will not contest that determination should the board so decide. Just as some additional information, should the board decide that modification number 5 is substantial, it will then be heard by the board along with modification number 4 on a later date, which will be December 5th, 2024. Staff advises that the applicant has provided written permission to open the hearing beyond 20 days after the notice of project change. Nicole, do you want to add anything, or should we hear from the applicant? I know, do you have
Yeah, I do have something from town
information
council,
town
but
council?
let's hear from the applicant first.
Yes. Welcome, gentlemen. Whichever one of you is going to speak first, if you would just raise your hand or let me know, and I'll call on you. That's Steve Schwartz. Mr. Schwartz, please begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think your summary was accurate. Andy Martineau from Chestnut Hill Realty, the beneficial owner of the applicant, is here, as well as Bob Allen, Brookline Council. Just to summarize very briefly, as you stated, in June of this year, we submitted an application requesting the conversion of certain garage spaces to residential units and the creation of a new surface parking lot. Later in June, the board voted to treat that change as a substantial change, requiring a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
That public hearing has not yet occurred and is scheduled now for December 5th. During the course of various communications with planning staff and others in town, building department, transportation department, one of the things that came up in the course of those discussions was the issue of a certain condition in the original comprehensive permit with regard to parking and the restriction of parking on the residents of South Brookline lot, which is part of the larger Hancock Village development. Of course, the restriction of use of the ROSB lot for parking solely for residents of that 40B project. And a lot of questions were asked about that. And in the course of those discussions, communications, in-person meeting, ultimately what was agreed upon was that we would submit a request for a change to the comprehensive permit to modify a condition, so-called condition number 5 in the original comprehensive permit, and that was the subject of our request that was made back in October, as well as modifying a condition with regard to the transportation access plan.
That's 23, right?
That's correct. Thank you. We have been in touch with planning staff, with Ms. Morelli, as well as with town council. And as you stated correctly, we fully anticipate that this board will vote that change is substantial, thereby requiring a public hearing on that matter as well, which also would be heard on December 5th. And we anticipate that those matters would be taken essentially as a whole, since they're very much related, although they are two separate requests. And so technically, while we're happy, of course, to address any questions that members of the board may have, I think technically why we're here is just to have the board vote, as we anticipate they will, to treat this request as well as substantial, thereby requiring a public hearing on our request. But again, happy to answer any questions that you or other board members may have.
Thank you, and to the board member, I'm just going to underline Mr. Schwartz's comment that is in fact what our business tonight is, to determine substantial or not substantial. Nicole, before I go to the board, can you do you have other information from I forget, from town council? Is he advised on this?
Yes, he did not
question?
advise specifically whether or not this would be substantial or not substantial. He didn't give an opinion on that, but he did say that the proposed modification of the condition was not written properly, and that might need to be discussed.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, he did He did point that out. He had a concern about the specific language that was in our October 15th letter. I believe it was October 15th. And I have been in communication with Mr. Simpson. And we have now modified that language in a manner that that he now approves of. So when we do appear before the board, assuming it is December 5th, we will be presenting that modified language.
Thank you. Let me turn to members. Questions for anyone who has spoken so far. Lark, do you have any?
I don't have any questions, and it seems appropriate to find that this is a substantial change in the circumstance.
All right, thank you. Wadner?
I do not have any question, and I agree with my colleague. And basically, I do understand why this is before the board, because I was questioning why even present it before the board since we have a meeting scheduled in December. So now I understand it. So I don't have any other questions.
Lark, from your remark sounded like your vote in favor of calling it substantial. Can we take it that way?
Yes, that's correct.
And
That's
same for
correct.
you, Wadner?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. I will concur then, and I agree that my opinion, we should call this substantial. That is a unanimous decision of the board. Thank you to members of the applicant, and we will see you in December.
Thank you very much.
All
Have a
right.
good evening.
Good evening. All right, changing gears a little bit. We're going to turn now to Chapter 40A cases. And for those of you joining either as project proponents or members of the public, I'm just going to review how we'll proceed through all three of these cases. Although we're going to omit a couple of the steps for the first case, which is a continuation of a case that the board already opened. But in general, I will introduce the case by number and address and identify the applicant or person who will speak on the applicant's behalf. And if it's a new case, I will ask if they'll waive the reading of the public notice. The applicant will present the request for relief, and if the board requests it, the design of the project. And board members may ask questions of the applicant. Next, we will hear public comment, and I will first call on those members of the public wishing to speak in favor, and then those opposed. We will then hear the reports of the planning department and of the planning board and comments by the building department. Finally, the board will deliberate and give its decision. All right, then on the agenda, under section 2, we have the first of these 48 cases under number 2A, which is case number 2024-000029, which concerns property at 73 Beverly Road. Project is to alter a single-family dwelling to expand the existing first floor and second floor living areas and to construct an in-ground swimming pool. Let's see, and who is here this evening on as the applicant or on behalf of the applicant?
The applicant is Andrew Falkenstein, architect.
Thank you, Mr. Falkenstein. I'm just going to recap a little bit, and Mr. Falkenstein, you're welcome to extend this. But the board opened the hearing for this case on September 19th, 2024. And at that hearing, we had the applicant's presentation and some questions from the board and comments from town staff and some public comment. In this evening's packet, we have a new proposed site plan dated October 15th, 2024, prepared by Land Mapping, Inc. And as I turn to you, Mr. Falkenstein, I'm going to ask you to share this drawing, and if you can explain how it is intended to answer some of the questions that arose at the September meeting, that would be a great way to get our heads
Absolutely.
case. And if you can, if you can, as you do that, just keep it connected to the request for relief that we began looking at in September.
Does everyone see the revised site plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. The central item, which we were asked to address, has to do, oh, sorry, this is actually the architectural site plan. Pardon me, wrong one.
You've got this one that has the three.
Yep, I've got that too. So,
Sorry
and
to
then I'll get
interrupt you,
right to the hard
Andrew,
line
if
drawing.
you could pull up the one actually dated October 16th, that one, Paul Campbell said is the best.
Yeah. By way of illustration, and, the central issue was the calculation of what was the backyard. This being a corner lot, the surveyor had initially, according to Paul Campbell, miscalculated the square footage of the lot. We need to keep our accessory use of the pool limited to 25%, and we had miscalculated. Let me pull up
Yep.
this.
Pull up the one, yeah, that shows the lot line or the
Yeah,
rear yard lines.
Yeah.
Thanks.
okay. So here we have new calculations. We reduced the size of the pool by a little bit, but essentially the proposed the size of the yard was recalculated, and the pool came in at less than 25%. Once we changed the boundaries of the rear yard. And I was trying to see that in the earlier diagram. This is both are stamped by the surveyor. And I saw those calcs.
Can you just sort of walk us around with the cursor on the,
Sure.
delineate what's a rear yard and what's a side
Yes.
yard? The
So-
corner lots are always
Yep.
tricky.
I think
Absolutely.
that, sorry, Andrew, to interrupt, but the one dated October 16th, that one really is the best. It shows it in red. What
Oh,
the
okay, the
rear
red
yard
one. Yeah,
is.
let's do that. Let's do that.
I have it handy if you need.
Yeah, this says November 13th, but
No, not this one.
this is
There's
the one,
another
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
No, I think
So-
there's a different one. Let me find it for you. I have
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Can everyone see my screen here?
Okay.
So you can see in red, the rear yard, what would be considered the rear yard. Because it's a corner lot, this front portion is considered part of the front yard, so it can't be counted as rear yard. So then the new calculations shown are 24.5% for the pool, which is the accessory structure.
Can you pan back up to the pool area?
So the pool was reduced slightly. I think before it was, what was it, for?
It was a higher 400 number. It was 460 something or something.
Yeah, 456 or something.
We actually in our first calculation we had counted the front yard along Rangeley Road here, but we also hadn't fully counted this area as part of the backyard. So the numbers changed. We downsized the pool, and the surveyor is now affirming and stamping that the pool would in fact be less than 25% of the rear yard. And this plan has gone to Paul Campbell, and he had no issues with it.
And Nicole, do you actually have some comments to convey from Paul later on?
Yes,
On this?
I-
Okay.
I'm happy to read it now or wait till you're finished deliberating. Whatever.
Can you just have the drawing back up? I just because I wanted to have that there, but also look at the relief. In case I thought there was more than one thing in it, and I wanted to understand what the pool change does. How many of them does pool change affect? Oh, yeah, Mr. Foxstein, let me try. I'm trying to connect back to the previous discussion, and I think this is what I remember discovering during the hearing was that there actually wasn't there wasn't an item of relief requested for the size of the pool, right? There was an item, there was, and is there still a request for relief for the setback of the pool?
No, because as we will see on the stamp site plan, the water line is now 5 feet from the property line, which is compliant with the zoning regulations.
Nicole, the planning report says the requirement there is 6 feet.
It
that-
is. It's 6 unless you have a buffer, I
And we
believe.
have a buffer, excuse me, we have a buffer.
Okay. So 5 feet is acceptable with a buffer?
You'd have to go back to the report. 1 moment. So it's this section here, 407.
Special permit is required for swimming pools unless separated from side and rear line by 4-foot wide strip of land and densely screened shrubbery. So that's the planting buffer reaching a
So
height of 6 feet.
confirm
Now,
that he's showing that here, and yes, he is showing that here.
but the dimension, okay, so the dimension on the drawing,
But
is
the
that a
pool-
4-foot dimension that
4
we're
feet
meeting?
from there.
Yeah, so this is not, this is an older drawing. If we look at the more recent, the stamped site plan, the stamped proposed, not this one, this is not the proposed plot plan. The hard line one without any color clearly shows 4 feet to coping, 5 feet to water line. I can pull that up.
If you would, because I don't have it here in the packet. There was
Sure.
too many site plans to
Yep.
figure out which one was the actual final.
Oh,
Yeah, I think we have hard copy of that, but it would still be helpful to see it on the screen.
here we go. And I'll zoom in. You can see it here.
You're no longer sharing.
We're not
Anthony.
seeing a drawing.
Yeah, let me. If you look at my cursor right here, both corners of the pool, you see we're 4 feet to the coping, 5 feet to the water line. Right here. And this is the strip. And obviously this is not a planting plan, this is a land use plan. The planting strip is here. Both the proposed outdoor kitchen and the pool are 4 feet off the property line. And with the water line at 5 feet.
Okay, so it looks to me, with respect to the request for relief, that the question of the area of the pool relative to the rear yard is no longer requires relief because the pool has got smaller. There is no longer a request for relief for the pool's rear yard setback because it complies with the 4 feet with heavy planting condition. Mr. Frankenstein, is it still the case that the other 3 items of relief requested, which was for maximum FAR, the minimum lot size, I assume the lot hasn't changed, and the rear yard setback for the house itself, 40 required, 23.8 existing and proposed, are those still before us?
Floor area, yes. Lot size, yes. It's my understanding, and we look here, that the house that we're doing nothing to increase any of the dimensional regulations. We exceed 25-foot setback on the Rangeley Road and in the rear yard. We haven't increased any. We have not increased any dimensional nonconformities as to setback.
All right, thank you. What I was trying to do, and this is for myself and for the members, is when we come back to the planning report, which had the table of requested relief, it had 4 items. Now it has only 3. And if those 3 are still in play, then that tells us where we are. Let's see. Members, any questions at this point for the applicants?
Yes, I'd like to also go through a little bit of the analysis of the chart that was included in the planning board's report from the case originally, to make sure that now that the rear lot line is identified and the rear yard is identified, that the request for relief is the same.
Nicole, can you share that?
So, because there was a little confusion about what was the rear yard and the rear yard setback and the existing conditions according to the chart on the planning board's report, provided that there were 23.8 feet as the rear yard setback, and that the proposed conditions would be 23.8 feet. So now we've redefined the rear yard. I just want to make sure that that's still accurate, that information. Nicole, you're muted.
Sorry, Andrew, can you confirm that this is still?
Yeah, and I'll pull up the site plan again. I believe that's the case.
I think it was just a question of the rear yard of that's fronting on that corner, whether or not a portion of that could be included as rear yard. It wasn't to do with the actual rear property line. So
Right.
I don't think that changed the actual home setback, which is proposed to stay at the existing non-conforming setback of 23.8.
That's true. That's true. That the setbacks that the surveyor determined are coming from the edge of the property line, and the reconfiguration of the rear yard space has nothing to do with that.
So the rear yard lot line, it's a corner lot, and there's an analysis that goes with a corner lot. And so you're saying the rear yard lot line did not change.
Correct.
In the new plan.
We have 2 front yards, and we've always known what the rear yard was. The rear yard did not change. What changed was the intersection where the front yard overlaps with the rear yard, because it's a corner. Where those in that bubble diagram overlap is where we were confused. But the actual boundary for measurement purposes of the rear yard has not changed.
Okay.
And then as far as the other items of relief, we would strike this one because now they're at 24.5%. And the parking still requires relief.
So there's no need for a special permit for the swimming pool.
Correct.
Okay. Lark, other questions?
No, I think those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Wadner, how about you?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to public comment. I want to. We did have some the last time, and Nicole, could you let us know? Are there members of the public who are here this evening who would?
Yes. Jack Corrigan has indicated he'd like to speak.
All right. Is he the only one?
Yes.
And is he speaking in favor or in opposition? Has he said?
He has not said.
Asking questions.
Opposition.
All right. We'll hear from Mr. Corrigan then.
I'll characterize my own position, Mr. Falkenstein, but one of the concerns that was raised before was because of the pudding stone foundation, putting in a pool would possibly require some blasting or drilling. And we requested that blasting be prohibited. And I'm not seeing where that's a condition of the approval.
I
Is
can
that-
answer that,
is that-
Randolph,
that-
like,
Pardon me?
Yeah, that we did. Yes, can you replay some of that from the last time, or if you have comments? from
yes, I can read the
table about it?
condition.
Yeah.
I can pull it up actually. We have a condition here that says the plan shall provide a construction management plan approved by the building commissioner, and the plan shall address any construction issues, including drilling or blasting.
Right. I think we requested that blasting be prohibited. So I'm wondering whether you can do that.
I'm not sure the board deliberated on whether or not they wanted that to be included in the decision.
Yeah, we did not get to deliberations the last time. But is it right, Nicole? I don't know if you have those minutes, but I believe the question of the rock outcrop and possibly blasting came up in September.
Yes.
If I can jump in, may I?
I just want to make sure Mr. Corrigan is finished with his comment.
It's just a request that you prohibit blasting.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Wadner.
I don't believe that there was a prohibiting request. I believe the applicants say that they're gonna hire a firm that knows that it may not be necessary. But there was the comment that maybe we should consider prohibited, but the board, I don't believe the board did decide on that issue. But it was the applicant was gonna a well-known firm that does blasting as well as other method. Maybe it may not get to that point.
Yeah, when I agree that we did not deliberate and decide on these conditions. Do you want to ask a question at this point of the applicant or the architect about this?
Well, my question to the applicant, did the applicant discuss, as the applicant previously indicated, that they were gonna hire a well-known company regarding that, whether there was any survey of the site since the last meeting to determine what method they're gonna use, whether blasting gonna be used or are they gonna be doing other type of method beside blasting?
I would defer to the owner and of the property who is on this call. I've been told that the answer is everything within the pool vendor's power will be done. I'd say that's it is the biggest pool company in New England, and I was told they are confident that they can do this without blasting. And obviously, the owner wants to avoid blasting if at all possible, but I did not speak directly with the pool company, so I would recommend for further information that we bring Sankalp Segal on to speak as to what he knows about the pool subcontractors' methods.
Yeah, thank you. If Mr. Segal is willing to speak, if you could either raise your hand or turn your video on and let us know, I will call on you.
Yes, hi there. Hello, board members. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you.
I
Just
really
for the
appreciate
record, Mr. Segal, just give us your name and
Yes.
address, please, and we'll get it on the recording.
Absolutely. My first name is Sankalp. My last name is Segal, and I'm the owner of the property at 73 Beverly Road. Thank you again for your time and consideration. So I spoke in extensive detail, and I had an on-site meeting with the vendor from SSG Pools, United Pools. Two things came up. One, we are not planning to use any blasting methods for the pool construction. Two, when we spoke to them, the company, about geological survey of the site, they said usually dig a 18-inch to a 30-inch hole and they test the soil, but that does not guarantee or determine what kind of methods may be used in advance. So unfortunately, it's only when you get into the digging when you actually know what needs to be done. but they have literally created pools on top of cliffs. So again, we have so much confidence in this company. They have again, from the owner's standpoint, everything comes at a cost. So we're not here to spend thousands on blasting techniques ourselves. Personally, I don't prefer that. We don't want to do any blasting for the pool. Uh, Likely, they said is going to be manual or mechanical drilling, which would be involved. And we have guaranteed that to all our neighbors, we're going to give them advance notice. We're going to try to do this at the time of other construction, not go after hours, not go before, try to reduce it to minimum 3 days but a maximum of 5 to 7 days of drilling for the site if necessary. No blasting. The chance of blasting is uh, per the pool company less than 0.5%. And we don't prefer that as well. But that's my kind of I'm not the expert, but that's my blanket statement from my on-site evaluation with them after our September meeting.
Could I ask a question of Dr. Segal?
Sure.
Would you have any objection to a condition of no blasting in the board's approval?
See, here's the thing. If it was up to me, I would say yes, but since I'm not the expert, I'm not the one doing the digging. Personally, I cannot give my word on that. I'm a doctor, so I always tell, all our patients and clients that the chance of anything happening, like in my expertise, which is medicine, is never 0 or 100. Given that chance of less than 0.5%, I just really want to reassure you, Mr. Corrigan, that we're not here to create nuisance. We actually just had our baby 3 weeks ago, our second one. Our goal to have a little, backyard oasis is not to have a pool party, but to have our kids grow up in an environment where they're comfortable with swimming, which I'm actually a national level swimmer. So it was actually of prime importance to us. And, we'll be inviting you over for a lot of Thanksgiving and Christmas parties as well. Again, we're peace-loving people. We're doctors, we're scientists, we're a young family with little kids. And I want to guarantee you, we're not here to create any nuisance. We want
Mr.
to,
Segal,
yes,
let's try to keep the focus on the blasting.
absolutely, absolutely.
And let me say this, and I appreciate
Okay.
that having a conversation about this as neighbors.
Yes.
But in the draft conditions that this board will be considering, as drafted, they would not disallow blasting, and the building department, as you may know, has some experience with following projects for which a construction management plan has had to be put in place, especially for projects in the ground in this part of Brookline where there are a lot of pudding stone outcrops. There have been projects where blasting has been prohibited, and then surprise, surprise, the other means of rock removal have also been unbearable to the neighbors, and they have consented to changing and allowing blasting. So I will say I agree with you that you never know, but my point in mentioning this is that I think the commitment that you were making in proposing this pool project in the first place is one of ongoing coordination and communication with your neighbors, and
Correct.
under a permitted construction project where the town will have some oversight of its activities, but you of course remain the proponent of the project and the one who thought the pool should happen. So a substantial responsibility still lies with you, whatever is necessary for your specialist contractor.
Absolutely. And when they submit to the building department for the for the permit and everything, they will submit the detailed construction plan. We will get the clearance from fire department, building department, all that stuff. So I think they will do the due diligence. My take on this is, if it helps for the board to make a decision today, to approve or not approve, and if this is the element that would help decide from our side, it's okay if you want to put that there would be no blasting, and if it helps Mr. Corrigan and all our neighbors to
I would help.
understand our position on that.
That would certainly help. Thank you.
Okay.
Helpful to know. Let me not lose track of where we were, which was Wadner, you were
Sorry, excuse me, Randolph. I
Yes.
don't know if you want to do this now or after, but there's another abutter that would like to speak in opposition.
I beg your pardon. Yes, thank you.
Oscar
Yes.
Soto. I didn't know, I
Yeah.
didn't mention him before. He
Okay.
indicated he wanted to speak later.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Nicole. Can you hear
Your
me?
address, please? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Oscar Soto. I'm the immediate abutter on 79 Beverly Road. Well, I'm glad to hear that blasting is not happening. I also heard that both Mr. Falkenstein and the owner are not experts in this issue, and you know, I just want to make sure that as a principle we do not harm, and if there were at any chance that blasting finally used, I would like to ask the board that all measures are taken to protect the property, including insurances, property insurances to our very close properties on the same Puddlestone. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. Yeah, thank you for that redirection, Nicole. Are we done with public comment now?
Yes, that concludes the comments.
Let's see. Now, do you have any new information from, I don't think from the planning department, but anything from the building department?
I do. I have a new
review of the site plan drawings?
Yes, I have a statement here from Paul R. Campbell, Deputy Building Commissioner, and he writes regarding case 2024-00029. The building department has confirmed that the pool and spa complies with section 5.72 and section 4.04.2, but will require that the proposed site plan prepared by Land Mapping Inc. dated October 16th, 2024, be stamped by a professional land surveyor or a civil engineer. The building department has no objection to the requested relief and will work with the petitioner to ensure compliance with the zoning bylaw board decision and applicable codes.
All right, thank you. Lark, Wadner, any questions for Nicole about Mr. Campbell's communication?
No questions. It just confirmed, the communication just confirmed what the last time the board has, the issue the board has with regarding that. So I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So I think it is time for board deliberations on this one. And Lark, you were good to take us back to the page of the relief requested, and you seem to have a good starting point for some of that. So can you start us off here?
Sure. Well, the requested relief apparently still requires relief from the rear yard setback because the requirement is 40 feet and the existing conditions are now 23.8 and will continue to be 23.8. So we would need to approve the issuance of a special permit for that. And apparently the pool is also going to need relief with a special permit because the rear yard setback is 6 feet, and I believe the pool is 4 feet from the rear yard now, or 5 feet.
5 feet measured to the water line, which is, I
Right.
believe, the way you're supposed to measure.
So it's not 6 feet. So
That's
it's
correct. Yes.
So that still needs a special permit for that particular purpose.
Can I ask you on this one, Lark, that in the planning report, it says the 6 feet is required unless it's separated from the lot line by a 4-foot strip with dense shrubbery on it.
Well, that's in connection with the special permit if the pool, as I recall, isn't it? If the pool is a maximum of, that's 403 required for large portion of the pool. Oh, that's true.
I think that the relief is not required for 407 anymore, so.
Okay, no, that's right. We,
That's why I wanted to go over that, what the setback of it is from the line now. Because I agree with you, Nicole.
I
think
think
we could
four
add
oh
that.
seven is no longer applicable, but that is not the section that requires 6 feet from the rear yard lot line. And I don't know what section. Do we have that?
Oh,
We do.
5.72.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's allows, it's 5.43 apparently.
Well, 5.43 allows relief if you have a landscape plan.
Right, but exactly, but you need a special permit because
yes,
essentially the
correct.
pool has to be set back by 6 feet from the rear yard lot line according to.
But under 407, Lark, it's 6 feet unless there's a 4-foot strip with dense planting in it. And Mr. Falkenstein, do we have the dense planting?
Yes, on the site.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't want to have a lot more comment. I just wanted a yes or no there. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
yep.
what we need.
That does seem to be the case.
All right. So Lark, you had the rear yard setback still applicable, and
And a special permit is still necessary for the increase in FAR.
right, and for it's a lot size that's under the minimum of 15,000. The lot size has not changed.
Right.
All right, thank you. Sorry to use your deliberation section to review, but it's
That's okay.
helping me. I hope it's helping us all. And how would you vote on these?
Well, I
special permits?
think we've reached a point now where with the reduction in the size of the pool, the project does comply with the special permit conditions, and therefore I would be in favor of issuing the special permits for the increase in the FAR and the rear yard setback. And I would vote in favor of issuance of a special permit for those two items.
Can we talk about the conditions though? Because remember, we have this open question about blasting, and then we heard the applicant's willingness to be bound by a condition of no blasting. What do you think?
Well, if we make it a condition to this, this is the sticky part for me. If we don't need to issue a special permit for the pool, then we don't have anything for the condition to attach to. In other words, the condition would attach to the special permit for the pool. But if we've come to the conclusion we don't need to issue a special permit for the pool, and the blasting is associated only with the pool, I'm not quite sure how we address that.
Is the blasting associated? Is the possible blasting associated only with the pool, Mr. Falkenstein?
Yes, I
Yes.
believe we are not doing any foundation work.
Thank you. That's good.
So I think perhaps this is something that the building department can address in their construction management plan. And they would be, I mean, there's a condition that there be a construction management plan and that it address blasting.
Are you saying that the ZBA doesn't have a toehold in its decision because nothing that because the pool is compliant, doesn't require relief.
That's, yes. That would be my opinion at the moment.
But
But I do think the building department can opine in their construction management plan and regulate the way the project is constructed. And
Well,
if they
no.
chose to, they could prohibit blasting if they felt it was against the interests of the town.
Can I make it a little harder for you and ask you whether you think the condition of requiring a construction management plan is sufficiently linked to the request for relief that we can include it?
Yes, I think having a construction management plan for an extension of the home and the construction of the pool as a general matter is a reasonable condition for a project like this.
But in your view, it's beyond our reach to prohibit blasting, or to
One
include
might argue,
disallowing blasting.
one might argue because that is imposing a prohibition on an activity on the site, which our jurisdiction is related to zoning and not construction. And
I know that, but I also have just heard we're the sponsors of a neighborhood conversation, among people who will be affected by this project, and we've just heard the owner of the property, offered to the neighbors to prosecute the project under those conditions. We're the only place that conversation is happening in a public meeting. And I wonder whether that could be our opportunity to make that condition stick.
well, we can include it as a condition to the special permit for the rear yard setback, I guess.
if I can jump in, would that make a difference because the applicant voluntarily agreed to it rather than the board trying to impose it?
Well, I think that is relevant. I think that's a good point.
Because we can, I'm looking at I'm looking at the regulations where it says that if the board exercise its authority, which require expert or administrative body or designated their authority, which we're discussing a management plan. And in that, if we, kind of incorporate that language that the applicant voluntarily agree not to use blasting rather than the board imposing it, I think it might be okay because we're not imposing it on the applicant as a requirement, as a condition, rather being a good neighbor. The applicant concedes to, okay, just to keep the peace, we are a neighbor, we're gonna live with each other for a long time. So we're gonna see each other every day. So why don't I just make that concession to not using blasting? I don't, maybe that's how, if we word it that way, it wouldn't be some condition that the board imposing on the applicant, rather the applicant voluntarily agreed to it as being a good neighbor.
I'm not sure that I mean, it's helpful to hear your thinking. I don't think those details about the origin and the intent of it is going to appear in the condition. Can you just fill out?
I just have one suggestion.
Yes,
we could put in the condition that it was an agreed upon condition.
Yes.
All right.
We've done that
Yes.
in the past.
Okay.
Yes.
Wagner, can you back up and just for if you heard Lark's comments about the other items of relief, separate, backing up from the blasting condition discussion, do you have any different opinions to share or your recommended vote on that?
No, I pretty much agree with Lark. Basically, it just we're just trying to see whether we can have an agreement that that's resolve any potential issue that can come up between those two neighbors, and I don't think I have any opposition.
Yeah, let's contain it. Nicole, could you just read us out some sample wording for what you would change that second sentence in condition 3 to? When you say,
For everyone to see. So it's condition 3, and I would just change this to say the plant shall
they'll address all
specify.
construction issues.
Shall specify no blasting and shall address drilling as agreed upon by the applicant.
All right. Yeah, member show that let's just go through it again quickly. That's we can vote on that. I will just add with respect to the 3 items of relief from the chart. The only thing I would add is that the conditions for the granting of a special permit under section 905, and I'm not going to read them all out. These are conditions A through E. Under 905.1, in my opinion, they have been met. And I would vote in favor of the special permit for those 3 items, and on the condition of the revision of condition 3 to exclude blasting, as Nicole has just read. Lark, your vote?
I do vote in favor of the issuance of special permits because the project, in my opinion, does comply with the conditions for approval of a special permit in section 905. And the conditions as stated in the planning board report with the modification you just suggested, Randolph.
All right. I'm going to pause for just a second. Nicole, did you actually read all the planning board recommended conditions into the record at the last hearing?
Yes, I did.
You did. Okay, good. Didn't want to miss that. And Wadner, can you just review your vote for us now that we've sort of?
Well, I agree with my colleague that the applicant does meet the condition of 905. And subject to what the board discussed, where the applicant agreed to not using blasting as the method to construct the swimming pool.
All right. Thank you all. That's a unanimous vote of the board. Thank you all for your patience, neighbors for attending and participating. Good luck with the project. Next case on the agenda is 268 Beverly Road. This is case number 2024-000038. The project is to construct a second-story addition to a single-family dwelling. Who is here as the applicant or on behalf of the applicant?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Allen, good evening. Will you waive a reading of the public notice?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please tell the board about this request for relief.
Sure, Mr. Chair, members of the board, for the record, my name is Robert Allen. I have a law practice at 300 Washington Street in Brookline Village. Here with me tonight is Allison and Matt Bracken, who are the owners of the property, and the project architect, Erica Liliev. The family purchased this home. They've lived there since 2018. Over the last 6 years, they've become fixtures in the neighborhood, and they've decided as their 2 girls get a little bigger and take up a little bit more space that they need a little bit more elbow room for themselves. So they connected with Erica to come up with a modest addition that would both preserve and increase the functionality of the home. Just by way of zoning, this is a S7 zoning district. This board's seen a ton over there in South Brookline. Everything that's done to these houses over there, because they're S7s, need some kind of work. So unfortunately, there's so much added cost living in this neighborhood, because every time you have to do work, you have to wait this 6-month process to get before this board. The neighborhood is all pretty much single-family homes. It's right near Baker School. They live right on the same street as Baker. The current house is a very small one-story single-family garage, as is typical in the neighborhood. It's less than 10 feet wide. The proposal before you this evening to expand the garage by 1.5 feet, so it'd be 11 and a half feet wide. The small increase will make the garage workable. Getting in and out is pretty tight right now. The proposal also includes an addition above the new footprint of the garage, which will create 2 modest-sized bedrooms. This increases the bedroom count from 3 to 4. The proposal also seeks to enclose an existing porch on the right-hand side of the house, which is used for a small in-home office. I think the board will appreciate that the zoning relief is not under Section 6, but rather under 522, because they're taking an existing and they're not going over 120%. The existing FAR is at 94%. Max allowed, and the additional 404 square feet that we're adding brings us to a little under 109.4% of the maximum allowed. I have to commend the architect on this. I think this is modest and minimally impactful, change the home. A special permit is also sought to reduce the side yard setback by the garage there to 6.5 feet, where it was 7.5 feet. We have great relationship with the abutters next door. You should have also received support from a couple other folks who live on Beverly Road close by. Planning board was unanimously supportive, and the only reason why we're actually delayed, we had to get a continuance here because the planning board actually asked us to make it bigger. They thought that we should expand the roof out a little bit more so it meets the edge of the garage. So it only added 45 square feet, but it actually worked out great. It makes a lot more sense. It'll save a little money on construction cost and gives us, 45 extra square feet. So another good suggestion from the planning board, which allowed us to come before you and the plans you saw tonight. I know you got the drawings. Relief is pretty minimal. I know I've said minimal a lot tonight, but if you want to, I think we have the architect here. She can certainly walk you through it, or I can walk you through it.
Yeah, let's have a quick walkthrough.
Sure.
Hi there, how are you? My name is Erica Patton, architect working with the Bracken family. I can share my screen if you all.
Sorry, I got your last name wrong, Erica.
That's all right. The project has gone on so long. I've gotten married and had children since then. So
That's how long this process takes in this town of Brookline, right? She's got 6 kids already, and they just.
It says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Nicole, fix that quickly.
Nicole.
Sorry, one moment.
No worries.
I think you just want to focus on the relief. You don't have to get into the interior and everything else. I don't think, unless the chairman of the board wants to, but typically they want to focus on the relief.
Oh, Mr. Allen knows the chair so well.
Planning board likes to talk about what the windows look like on the inside, and
Yeah.
So yeah, as Bob had mentioned, with the relief, we really, it's pretty minimal. This is our little chart on the front drawing. Our FAR got increased slightly, and then our side setback went to 6.4 feet, and existing it was 8.9, but the requirement is 7.5. So not a huge impact to the area. And architecturally, this here, if you look at the this 3D shot, this is the existing house, and this is the addition here on the left-hand side. So trying to keep architecturally in the same style, so it's pretty minimal. Is there anything specific that you'd like me to go through, or?
I just want to make sure that that members understand where this is. I mean, this is the project. This 3D view of the house shows the. And could you just confirm that what's shown on the left as a 2-story wing is currently just 1 story, right, and just has the garage in it?
Yep, right now it's just a 1-story. garage, and the front face of the garage aligns, the new garage will align with where the existing garage was. The back will extend out further than the existing garage does currently, just to give them some more space there.
And on the
But-
right side, that's,
Yep, the footprint of this porch actually exists as it is. It's just being enclosed.
right. And from the outside of the house then, is it those two things that you've just spoken about, are those the main things that one would notice?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Thank you. Members of the board, any questions for Mr. Allen or Ms. Patton?
I have a question.
Yes, Laura.
What are the counterbalancing amenities that are proposed for the
Yeah, we've talked
side
with,
yard?
we've talked with the neighbor on the side there and gonna beef up the landscaping along the left-hand side. We talked about the fence. There's a fence there now, right? Yeah, so I mean, there's not a ton we could do as far as, but we're gonna add landscaping, although we'll benefit from the landscaping because they benefit from the fence. They had done some work on their house several years ago and put up the fence in between, so it's actually pretty significant. So we'll add some shrubs. It'll look much more pleasant from the street. The one thing about this house, all these houses are pretty close to the street. So adding some landscaping on the left-hand side will be beneficial to, a lot of people walk by here and will be beneficial overall. So I do think a landscape plan is sufficient.
All right, and there is a draft condition for the landscaping plan.
That's correct.
All right,
Thank you for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that.
right. Other questions, Laura?
No, thank you. That
Okay.
was the only one.
Wadner?
I don't have any questions.
All right. Let's see. We have also the applicant's design review impact statement, which we don't need to go through in detail unless the applicant would like to point to any particular part of it. I'm just noting that it was received by the board.
Great. Well, can I just bang out the zoning argument real quick?
Yes, please.
Great. So as for zoning, as I said, under 522-3B1B, this allows a special permit for an FAR up to 120%. As you just saw in that chart there, we're at 109.4, so we're well under the 120%. The 509 design review, as the chair just mentioned, we supplied everything and the proposal complies with the community impact standards under 509. Side yard setback is the third thing that we're asking for, which I had said went from 7.5 to 6.5. And again, we'll provide landscaping, provide screening along that side. So we believe under 905, the site is an appropriate location for the use. The property is located in a residential neighborhood, and the proposed garage, in addition, will maintain this use, actually be more usable as a real garage. Instead of just a storage place. The use will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There's no change to the use, and the proposed addition will not adversely affect the neighborhood. As I said, letters were submitted, and we do have support from the immediate abutter. No nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and no change in the driveway or the location of anything. If anything, it'll be a little easier to maneuver in and out of the garage, which will make it easier to get out and for the people walking by on the sidewalk. Adequate appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation, and the development will not have an effect on the supply of housing, on the supply of available for low or moderate income people. This is a great project, and I've said modest 5 times, I think, but it's an example how a small change can allow this family to stay in place and stay there a little bit longer. They're only adding 400 square feet, and they've probably added several years of staying in Brookline, because that next step in Brookline to the next house is always a huge step. So I always appreciate when people look for ways to try to expand it and stay in their house, and they love this neighborhood, and Erica did a great job to make that happen. So I believe we meet the standards, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you. I'm going to go to public comment unless members of the board have questions for Mr. Allen. Seeing none. Nicole, do we have any members of the public who'd like to speak?
I don't see anyone. I'll just remind folks, if you're here for this case, please raise your hand and we will allow you a couple minutes to speak.
While that's happening, I will note for the record that we did receive letters of support from Virginia and James Friedman and from Carolyn Thal, which the board has reviewed.
Yes, and I don't see anyone else, so I think.
All right. We will then
That's
go
it.
on to the reports of the planning department and the planning board, if you would, Nicole.
Great. So good evening. The planning board voted unanimously to recommend support of the requested relief in August 2024, and they were in support of the design. Several board members did have a concern about the new bedroom that was narrow, and the board recommended extending the rear roof above the garage. The applicant made the recommended adjustments, and that's the plan that you see before you this evening. Therefore, the planning board recommends approval of the site plan by John R. Hamill, professional land surveyor, dated October 6, 2023, and the architectural plans by Erica Patton, dated November 4th, 2024, subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit final floor plans and elevations stamped and signed by a registered architect, and a final site plan stamped and signed by a registered engineer or a land surveyor to the Director for Regulatory Planning or designee for review and approval. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit a landscape plan indicating proposed counterbalancing amenities as approved by the Director for Regulatory Planning or designee. The counterbalancing amenities must be executed in accordance with the approved plan. And 3, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit to the building commissioner for review and approval the site plan, floor plans, and elevations displaying the approval stamp of the Assistant Director for Regulatory Planning and evidence the Board of Appeals decision was obtained by the applicant and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And then I also have a memo from Paul Campbell, Deputy Building Commissioner, regarding case 2024-0038, and he states that the building department has no objection to the requested relief and will work with the petitioner to ensure compliance with the zoning bylaw board decision and applicable codes.
Thank you, Nicole. Board members, any questions for Nicole about those last 2 reports? All right, I think we can go into deliberations. I'll start this time. I think I appreciate the clarity of this presentation, and we have, for the 2 items where relief is requested, I see that a special permit is available under the provisions of 5.22 because the proposed increase in the gross floor area is less than 20%. And we can grant a special permit provided that requirements for design review are met. We have that 2-page memo, as I mentioned. I'm satisfied by it. With respect to the side yard setback, I will just say generally, as Mr. Allen noted, there's a bit of a pattern to this neighborhood with respect to side yard setbacks and garages and modifications to them, and a foot here and a foot there. And I think this proposed project has been designed as well as any of them, better than some, and I think accompanied by the landscaping, which will be under the review of professional staff at Town Hall. It's a reasonable, and as Mr. Allen said a couple of times at least, a modest and well done proposal. And in the conditions under 905 for granting of the special permits having been met, in my opinion, I would vote in favor of the relief as requested. And Wagner, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm also in favor of it. I have nothing to add to what you had said, went off.
Thank you. Bart?
And I am also in favor of the grant of the special permits.
All right, thank you both. There you have it. Unanimous decision of the board in the affirmative. Thanks for all your work and for coming tonight, and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. You guys.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Go to the last case, not the last item of business, but the last case this evening is number 2024-000046 concerning property at 1341 Beacon Street, where the project is to convert a bank to a market and retail store. Who is here on behalf of the applicant?
I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Allen again. And Mr. Allen, will you waive again the reading of the public notice?
Indeed, I will.
Thank you. Please tell the board about your request for relief.
Sure, Mr. Chair, members of the board, again, for the record, Robert Allen, 300 Washington Street in Brookline Village, actually here solo tonight representing Tokyo Kuma. I'm sure the board's familiar with this piece of property. It's one of the more dramatic features on Beacon Street, 1341 Beacon. Beautiful, unique building that has unfortunately sat vacant since 2021. It's one of those buildings that's almost impossible to rent unless you can find the right tenant. If you've been inside the building, I'm not sure if you have, it's got huge high vaulted ceilings, basically built only for a bank, and which obviously contributed to the difficulty in finding a tenant. It's far too large of a space in the heart of commercial area to be vacant so long. So we come here tonight as the right tenant, or we believe to be the right tenant. The proposal is to use the building as a new retail use by Tokyo Kuma. It's a retail store that offers products mostly imported from Japan. They sell a lot of cosmetics, hair products, fashion accessories, and imported snacks like Japanese flavored chips, specialty sodas, drink, those type of things. To be clear, there's no food prepared on the premises. There's no hot food. There's no produce. It's not sort of a grocery store type of thing. They were really excited about the interior of this building. They thought it'd be a really cool design for what they're planning there. They don't have to make any exterior changes to the building. The bank has a great floor plan to repurpose for their retail use. They're actually, the Preservation Commission not only, of course, loved the outside, but they loved a lot of features on the inside. And we don't have to mess with any of the interior features either, because we're just kind of putting up, walls around, or temporary walls around. So it'll maintain its historic look inside. So it's kind of a win-win for the town and hopefully for the landlord and hopefully for the tenant. From a zoning standpoint, it's G175 zoning district, so it's an allowed use. The lot's 5763 square feet. The retail store is 5383 square feet. The only relief we need is to waive a loading zone requirement. And just to make everybody's life a little easier, last night we went to the Transportation Board and they approved the conversion of right before you get to going down Beacon inbound, right before you get to Harvard Street, there's actually 2 taxi stands there. And we all know taxi stands aren't what they used to be. You don't have taxis sitting there all day. So they actually, Transportation Board approved the conversion of these 2 taxi stands to a loading zone / passenger zone at 1333 Beacon, which is about 75 feet from the building. So the taxi stand now will say no parking, loading zone, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., and no parking, passenger loading zone, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's what the sign will say there. And of course, the benefit to this, it's certainly beneficial to us, but there's other businesses that suffer there from not having a loading zone. And so there's other restaurants there and other places that get frequent drop off. UPS usually double parks there. This actually gives a loading zone for the entire little block right there. So I think it's certainly beneficial to us, but it'll be beneficial to everybody else also. One of the issues that came up, some concern about trash recycling, and this went along with, if we were to have sort of a loading zone, which wouldn't make sense for this type of store, it would have to be in the back of the property, which would be Webster Street, which is far too narrow to ever handle something like that. So being able to put it out on Beacon Street makes a ton of sense. Same thing with the trash. Tokyo Kuma, they manages other stores of similar size. They actually have one in downtown Manhattan. And based on their experience, trash pickup 3 times a week seems to address their needs. The store will bring the trash and recycling out to Beacon Street for pickup. And most of their trash they produce is cardboard, so it'll mostly be recycling. And just so you know, even if no special permit was requested, the health department would have reviewed and approval of the trash plan, which was confirmed with the building inspector. So we have to run our trash pan by the health inspector anyway. We also agree to the planning board recommended condition to provide a rodent control plan and trash plan subject to the review and approval of the health department.
Bobby, can I back you up to the loading zone issue?
Yes.
Nicole, unless this is already in there and I can't see it, would your client agree to a condition, along the lines of prior to the issuance of building permit that the applicant shall submit a plan, having the approval of the transportation, I'm not sure if it's board or department, for the on-street loading, designated on-street loading zone?
Yeah, I think we did that last night, but
No, I know, but well, no, but we still, if it's related to the relief that we're giving you for the on-site loading, which is what the bylaw requires.
yes. We're fine with that.
All right, Nicole, is it the department or the board who gives that?
You're asking for it just to be in the record? Like for
Well,
us to get a copy of the plan?
Do you have an opinion? And happy to hear from you, Lark, about this as well. Should there be a condition about that the applicant has to have completed and documented and submitted the separate approval, not from the building department, from the transportation department or board, for the on-street designated loading zone?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't hurt.
I think you could have a condition to that effect.
I think it certainly makes it easier for this board to waive the on-site loading requirement.
Right.
And Mr. Allen, you said you would not object to that.
No, I think it's pretty much done.
All right, because it's done. All right.
Yep.
All right. Questions from members of the board so far?
Then I'll just jump into zoning real quick, Randolph, just so
Yes.
I can hit the
Go ahead,
special
Bob.
permit standards. So the zoning relief, as I said, a special permit is requested to waive the loading zone for this existing commercial building. Again, we work with the transportation department. The number of required loading bays may be reduced by special permit according 6.06.7 from the Board of Appeals, where the adequacy of the reduced number of loading bays can be demonstrated based on the proposed use, hours, operation, delivery service requirements, allocation of loading facilities across the various uses and buildings. Tokyo Kuma delivers service requirements are 8 to 10 deliveries per week, which take about 10 to 15 minutes. They're basing this all off their Manhattan location and will schedule deliveries to make use over the newly approved loading zone. And I should just note, and I believe Nicole is in agreement with this, but I won't speak for her. There's an old condition that was added that was a template condition, number 3, in the current condition for a special permit requesting a parking waiver to provide employees subsidized for MBTA. I think that was rolled over from a prior, but that's not required. We don't need a waiver of parking relief. So I'm not sure that that's applicable. I don't think we talked about that, Nicole, but you might have
It can be
talked.
removed.
Yeah.
I spoke with Ashley and Polly. That can be
Okay.
removed.
So again, we went through the town process with the transportation board to find the loading zone. We think this is appropriate. All needed relief is by special permit. The proposal will meet the requirements of special permit on 905 as the specific site is appropriate location. The G district allows retail uses up to 10,000 square feet. The proposed retail space is under that at 5383, sorry. The use will not adversely affect the neighborhood, but proposal is appropriate for the general business district and will be improvement to a vacant, pretty large store right in the middle heart of Coolidge Corner. There'll be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. The designation of the loading zone will certainly help facilitate safe deliveries that do not create traffic jams, double parking, triple parking, blocking the bike lane, etc. Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided for the proper operation. The loading zone was reviewed and approved by the T-Board and no effect on the supply of housing available for low and moderate income. So I suggest to you that this does make the standard. It'd be great to have a tenant in this building that has sat vacant far too long.
Thank you. Let's move next to public comment. Nicole, do we have members of the public who have indicated they would like to speak in favor of the project?
No one indicated they're in favor. We have
In
two
favor of
opposition.
someone in opposition?
Yes, 2 people in opposition. Jonathan Davis.
All right, we'll call on Jonathan Davis first.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you. Give us your address, please, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I'm at 125 Park Street, Brookline. and I'm not in opposition. I have a concern. And my concern is limited to whether there would be any deliveries and loading on Webster Street, which has been mentioned is quite narrow, and if large trucks are delivering on Webster Street for the Tokyo Kuma, it could pose, I think it could pose a hazard for emergency vehicles to get through if necessary. And I'm wondering if it's possible to put into the board's decision that loading will not take place on Webster Street. I wonder if there's been any consideration or any consultation with the police department or the fire department about the problem with if there is loading on Webster Street. So that's my concern.
Thank you, sir. Nicole, and I may ask the applicant to clarify this, but let me put the question this way: if there has just been a separate process of designation of an on-street loading zone, or if that's expected soon, does that designation exclude? Where is that location? Is it on Beacon Street? Is that where the zone is?
Yes.
Mr. Allen saying yes. And does it therefore exclude other streets from the loading, from the offloading activities of this business?
I guess
The only place that
in
is
and of
allowed.
itself, that in and of itself wouldn't, but I assume that we couldn't just park in the middle of the street and block Webster Street to load. Not to
Yeah,
mention, we'd have to walk all the way around to get to Beacon Street anyway. But
I don't
listen,
think there's a loading zone there anyways.
yeah, I mean, we just went through this time and effort to get a loading zone on Beacon Street. The only way we can bring the stuff in is through the front door of Beacon Street. So
Well, that if I might, there is a rear entrance. Now it may be less convenient from some perspectives, but there is nevertheless a rear entrance. It's
yeah,
a fire.
respectfully,
it's a fire
Jonathan,
entrance, a fire exit.
yeah, you couldn't use that rear entrance for loading. We went through the process. This is why I was the one who said that Webster Street was not a proper place for loading, and that's why I moved to Beacon Street. Not sure why you're arguing about something you already won on, Jonathan. But I mean, what do you want from us? We're not loading on Webster Street.
Well, then perhaps there shouldn't be an objection to something in the board's decision saying that loading will not take place on Webster Street.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, thank you. I'll take that as a comment. I'm sure you'll understand if this board may not wade into the decisions of another board or agency of the town. That's happening somewhere else. Nicole, do we have another member of the public who would speak?
Yes, Bruce Levin.
Yes.
Good evening.
Mr.
Bruce
Address,
Levin.
please.
I live on Webster Street and speak on behalf of many that our top concern is that there not be loading on Webster Street. The movements seem to be in accord with that. If we could have something so that is clarified, there would be no problem. We just really think it would be dangerous to load on Webster Street. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nicole, other speakers?
No, that was it.
All right, let's have the reports of the planning department and planning board.
Okay. So the planning staff agrees that the trash plan shall be submitted at a later date to be reviewed by the health department. That was added as a condition. Since there are no changes to the exterior of the building, staff has no objection to the reuse of the site as a market. The planning board is also supportive of this reuse of the bank in Coolidge Corner, which has been vacant for many years. The board concurred with the applicant that the trash pickup should occur on Beacon Street rather than Webster Street, which is more residential in nature. The board was also pleased that the transportation department agreed to ask the transportation board for a loading area on Beacon Street with restricted hours for peak times. The board noted that this facilitates other businesses on the block to also use the loading area. Since this neoclassical building is in a registered historic district, it is beneficial that the new use does not necessitate any changes to the facade. Therefore, the planning board recommends approval of the site plan prepared by David A. Dwyer, PLS, dated September 9th, 2019, and the architectural plans by Jim Chen, RA, dated July 4th, 2024, for Tokyo Kuma, subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit final floor plans stamped and signed by a registered architect and a final site plan stamped and signed by a registered engineer or land surveyor to the Director for Regulatory Planning or designee for review and approval. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit a trash plan and rodent control plan subject to the approval of the Health Department Director. And 3 is the condition that we've agreed to strike that was from a prior decision that is no longer applicable here.
But is this where we could put or we could consider the condition relating to the submitting the Transportation Board's approval of the on-street loading zone?
Yes, so we could say prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit loading zone plan approved by the Transportation
Board
for review and approval by the Director of Planning.
I think it could just be a condition of receiving the building permit. I mean, it's already, no?
Okay, just receiving a copy of it.
Right.
Okay. Then number 4 is prior to the issuance of a building permit, the building commissioner should confirm that the plans meet emergency access building codes for life and safety. And 5, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall electronically submit to the building commissioner for review and approval the floor plans and site plans displaying the approval of the Director for Regulatory Planning and evidence the board decision was obtained from the town clerk's office by the representative and recorded at the Registry of Deeds. I hate to bring this up, but I think that it also requires approval from the Director of Transportation and the Director of Planning. Remember, this had come up on another case.
Approval of
To waive the off-street loading requirements under 606(3). It says by special permit, the Board of Appeals may, in lieu of dimensional requirements of this section, substitute another layout for off-street loading facilities where the Director of Engineering and Transportation and the Director of Planning and Community Development recommend planning board approval.
Nicole, can you just give us the paragraph number again?
Yes, it's 607.3.
Yeah.
And Bob, correct me if that's not applicable.
That's correct. Which you could.
You kind of already got it from.
Yeah, you could put that in with number 3. This is how it started. We started with the director. He said, let's go to the board on it. And that's how we got his approval and the board's approval.
So I would just kind of incorporate that condition into 3.
That's
But
right.
you were kind of right in the first place, Nicole, that paragraph should send it back, should cycle it through those 2 directors.
That's right.
And then we comply with that paragraph. All right. All right. Thank you. Questions from members of the board for Nicole before we deliberate?
I do not have questions.
Okay. Wadner, would you like to start on this one?
Yes, I'll briefly. I do believe that the applicant meet the conditions for a special permit under 905 to waive the loading regarding the loading dock requirement, and I'm in favor of granting relief under 905. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
And I agree with my colleague Wadner Auger.
Thank you. I will just add to that in my old day job, historic building architect, I'm quite excited. I share your excitement, Bobby, in seeing this monumental little building in Coolidge Corner brought into use. And one of the reasons is that it reminds me of one of the one of the best Trader Joe's locations in New York City, which is at the corner of it in a building remarkably like this, an old bank building with 2 columns on the front at the corner of Court Street and Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. And it's the entire banking hall is just this biggest Trader Joe's checkout gauntlet that you've ever seen in this very tall space, great windows. It's an exciting place to go. The sales are through the roof at that location. Back to the case. Yes, I share the opinion of my board members. I agree that the conditions for the special permit have been met. I think we have had enough documentation about the process of establishing the on-street loading zone nearby, and I would vote in favor. It makes it unanimous in the affirmative for this project.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, proponents and neighbors, for coming. Good luck with the project, and don't go anywhere, everyone. We have one more thing to do. Last item on the agenda. Where might be able to go? Oh, here we go. Last item on the agenda, for the board to discuss and vote on authorizing the chair to approve minutes for hearings rather than by a vote of the members in a meeting. Members have received from Nicole an email forwarded from the Assistant Town Administrator, Tiffany Oliva, discussing how the option for approval by the chair can increase conformance with the requirements of the open meeting law to post the minutes within 30 days. And Tiffany notes in that message, the open meeting law does not actually govern the method of approval. The public body can make that choice. So that's something that we can do. Nicole, is there more to it than that?
No, I think you summarized it well. We're just looking to get all board members' approval to have the chair of each meeting approve the minutes.
Right. And have you done this with other panels of the
Yes. So Jesse, Johanna, and who am I missing? Saul approved it last hearing.
Okay. So can I just ask, does that mean if everyone votes in the affirmative, does that mean any combination on a panel can then follow this procedure?
Yes.
All right.
And I checked with town council on that as well.
All right. Lark, Wadner, questions about it?
I have no question. I think it is a practice that will be much effective in terms of open public meeting law that will allow the public to know exactly what took place at a prior meeting, so that if they want to follow up. So I think it will make the process more efficient.
Yeah, I think I've heard from a lot of people that they really like the online systems now for agendas and minutes and packets and so on. People do expect to see the minutes there. I'm likewise in favor. Lark, your thoughts?
I am also in favor of allowing this particular change.
All right. So on the motion for approval by the chair, not in the meeting and not by all the members, I will also vote in the affirmative. It's unanimous. So Nicole, are you done with all the ZBA members by now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, good. All right. Well, that'll be our wrap up for the evening. And thank you all. Not too bad. 8:45.
Thank you.
May I please have a motion to adjourn? And we have to roll call our way through the vote on it. By Wadner, Lark, will you second?
Second.
And the vote, Lark, your vote is?
Yes.
Yes, and Wadner?
Yes.
Yes, and Randolph votes yes. It's unanimous, and good evening.